Hello and welcome to the 4th episode of the Mark and Me Download Festival special. You may not know this right now, but this has been a 5-part series and we're now here at part 4. Hopefully you've listened to the first 3 episodes that included interviews with the Calistal Boys, Royal Blood, Health, Froze Mode, Funeral for a Friend, Those Damn Crows, Harriet, Holding Absence and Fear Factory. And now you're back for more. And I've got those for you today, and my god, today's episode is absolutely huge. I'm joined today by Wheatus, Alexisonfire and Sum 41. Huge bands, massive interviews, and I really am so excited to share these with you. If you haven't listened to the first 3 episodes, please go and do, because it will make more sense. But basically, I went to Download last weekend and had the time of my life. I was there for 3 days with my best friends, Scott and Darren, and we got to go in the press tent and record as many interviews as we could for you guys at home, and I think we've just done that. This is going to be a 5-part special, and we're almost there at the end. It's been an amazing journey, and I'm so excited to bring you these interviews today. So, let's kick things off today with Brendan B. Brown from the awesome Wheatus. 'Cause I'm just a teenage dirtbag, baby. Yeah, I'm just a teenage dirtbag, baby. Listen to Iron Maiden, baby, with me. Welcome back to day 2 of the Mark and Me podcast. I'm here now with Wheatus. Brendan, welcome to the Mark and Me podcast.
Thanks for having me.
What I do with every guest, and I've done this all weekend so far, I like to go down memory lane, and I want to start today's interview.
Okay.
When you were a kid growing up, can you remember that first album that you bought, maybe with your pocket money, or someone in the family gave you a CD or a tape that made you fall in love with music?
Wow.
Straight down memory lane.
There were a lot of them. Purple Rain.
Wow.
Back in Black. Actually, I think I bought Highway to Hell first, because it was the most scary looking cover.
Yeah.
Angus with a devil tail and horns and all that.
That's some hard hitters already. I'm like, Jesus, what do you add on that when you start with those foundations?
Well, shortly after that, it was I bought the vinyl 45 of And Justice for All's
Wow.
the single Eye of the Beholder, which had the cover of the Budgie song Bread Fan on the back of it. And that was amazing. That was
Do you still have that, or have you sold it or lost it?
I have it somewhere very, very scratched up, and I bought a new one.
That's a rare. You got a new one?
Yeah, I got another.
Okay.
Well, not a new one, but a
plot twist.
an old one in very good condition. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, but you have to put a quarter on it because they mastered Bread Fan. I think actually Bread Fan is actually unmastered on that.
Right.
So you have to put a quarter on the needle so it doesn't jump out of the.
I love
groove.
this.
Yeah.
And what about live music? Because it all changes, doesn't it? When you go and see that first band, a gig, parents might drop you off, you go in, and it changes your world, especially if you want to be in a band.
Parents didn't drop me off, but I took the train into Manhattan when I was a kid with some older upperclassmen from my high school who really weren't into hanging out with me to see AC/DC on the Blow Up Your Video tour when I was 14 years old.
Mental.
That was my first concert without parents. Was AC/DC.
Jesus.
Yeah, I think it was 88. I think it was 1988.
Are your ears still ringing now from that?
Yeah,
gig?
my left ear. Yeah, actually,
Wow.
my left ear is a little bit more ringy because of the Justice for All tour date that I saw. I saw them when I was 15, and I didn't wear earplugs, which was dumb. But I learned after that.
Do you know, I've been doing this podcast 7 years, 357 episodes today, and I don't know if I've ever heard anyone that's had such a huge, incredible array of bands to start their life with. Like, most people are like, oh, I had a CD of my brother's, it was Oasis, and then it got me into this, and it's still great, but you're like, boom, AC/DC.
No, I had to seek it out. I sought it out on my own. I was a very sort of stubborn, determined little boy. You know, I started buying cassette tapes, when I was, 9.
Yeah.
The first leaf raking money that I had,
Yep.
I started playing guitar when I was 8.
Wow.
So, and of course around the house there was like Huey Lewis and the News and Cyndi Lauper and all the sort of mainstream pop stuff. but my responsibility in the family was to go find the, AC/DC bootlegs in the back bin of the record store, and that kind of stuff.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I have this one Van Halen bootleg where David Lee Roth. You can't see what he's doing, obviously, because it's a vinyl. Because your mental imagery is just blown away by this. But it's a true bootleg, meaning it wasn't edited by the band in any way. It was a record, a 33-speed, 12-inch record of Van Halen playing some massive, arena somewhere in California. And Dave goes, hey, don't squirt water at me, man. Oh, fuck your girlfriend. Woo-hoo-hoo. Right? And just 20,000 people are like, yeah, That kind of stuff when you're 11 is pretty hard hitting,
You're like, what are you listening to up there, son?
Never mind.
I'm
doing my homework. I'm not listening to shit.
I don't know the full history of Wheatus, but were you guys friends at school or college, or was it
no.
much later?
It was a friendless exercise for quite a bit of it.
Yeah.
I was alone in the endeavor until my brother joined the band, and Rich Leegee joined the band in about early 97, late 96. But I started writing and recording the first 3.5 records by myself. So demos with a 4-track and me playing the bass and a microphone and a guitar.
Yeah.
Trying to find my voice, trying to find something unique in the laboratory without out of the view of, the critics, if you will, or just even friends and family. And of course, a lot of the way that I sing is sort of peculiar. I started singing along to Prince and Bon Scott and Rush before my voice dropped. So I still have those high notes kind of. I'm 50 years old now, and I still do them. Actually, in the Teenage Dirtbag Girl part, I don't know if you saw our set yesterday, but I let the crowd have the old melody, and I take a higher harmony.
Yeah.
It's, and of course, if you're a little under the weather, it doesn't quite sound like it should, but for the most part, I'm still, I don't drink alcohol or any of that stuff, so I keep going on the voice. But finding that voice was very difficult, so I did it alone. That's where the original sort of in the woodshed moment was with the records. And that was 94, 95, 96. Those 3 years I was really writing and demoing music for what will become our first 3 records or so.
Yeah.
By myself.
That's amazing. I recently had Alien Ant Farm on the podcast, and I was talking all about the way that Movies and Smooth Criminal, overnight, just elevated them on this other level.
Movies is such a good song.
It's such an underrated song as well.
God,
it's so good, and the lyrics
song.
Are genius.
Yeah, it's so good. I can't not rock to that every time it's on.
It's a hell of an anthem.
Yeah.
But I think
it's their best song.
It is. It's phenomenal. But they're always remembered for Smooth Criminal, mostly. That's the one that everyone wants them to play.
Fantastic cover.
It's one of the best covers they've ever done. Jeff Buckley, probably Hallelujah. Those are the best covers for me ever. But with Wheatus and having Teenage Dirtbag, I felt like you guys just elevated onto a level that you could never have been prepared for. Surely you never thought ever that it would be so many million streams, which now doesn't seem as relevant because it's all Spotify and all that.
Sure.
But back then, everyone I knew bought the album for that track and then discovered the rest,
Right. And discovered this rather wry and angry rest of it.
Which is amazing.
Yeah. Well, so we had a policy back then, if you write a song, you have to do anything that you get to tell everybody what to do on it, right?
Yeah.
That was sort of the captain's chair thing. And that a bit broke down in the recording process during those 2 weeks at my mother's house when we finalized the record in March of 2000. The only song I really had my 100% way on was Teenage Dirtbag.
Right.
For the way that the bass would be played, the way that the drums would be played.
Yeah.
Because I felt like it was, in terms of a narrative, a little poem, it was very, very succinct and clear. And I just didn't want anything to stand in the way of that narrative. The other songs were sort of, like I said, sort of maybe a little bit bitter songs about the experiences I had in the New York music industry up to that point. Because I had been around a little bit.
Yeah.
I toured in another band with Joan Jett and the Blackhearts in 96, late 95, early 96. And that was opening up for her, not in her band.
No.
and I had written and recorded a record that wound up getting $1 million deal that I cut out of. That was all during the Wheatus incubation period.
That's insane.
And I was afraid to show people the Wheatus songs. I was writing and recording things for other people, and noticing that stuff was happening with these other songs, and not good things. I was getting ripped off.
That's pretty shitty, yeah.
Yeah, so I got kind of sour about the whole process, and a lot of that wound up on our first record alongside Teenage Dirtbag. So Sunshine and Leroy and all that stuff. I never really thought about what we would need to be prepared for if it happened, because I always thought that it would be a small first record. And in a sense it was. But where it wasn't, it was the biggest that it could be, and that was a shock.
Yeah.
It was a feast or famine kind of situation. I was
insane.
surprised.
Yeah, I don't know. You never prepare yourself for that. Nobody could mentally think that is going to be like on MTV 24 hours a day, every day. Like,
no.
You can't even if you're arrogant and you think you're the best person in the world, no one can ever prepare you for that.
No, we had no sense of arrogance in that manner. We felt as though the odds were against it.
Yeah.
And we approached it that way. And at that point, I had been around enough to know that having a good song wasn't enough,
No.
I mean, I brought the song to Joan Jett's management first, Kenny Laguna, who is basically a hit maker in his own right. And I said, what do you think? Is it a hit? And he goes, maybe.
Wow.
And I've carried that.
That should be on a plaque in your house, like maybe.
Well, I still feel that way about it in some sense, right? Because are people still going to be caring about it tomorrow? I can't predict that, I just have to show up and deliver it as well as I possibly can.
But, like, what blows my mind is it's 24 years ago, which is insane. Now I feel really old. But I know in 24 years' time, again, that will still be played in clubs.
You reckon?
Still be played. Dude, I put my life on it.
I hope you're right.
There's certain anthems, Smooth Criminal we've talked about today. Wheatus, definitely, my friend. I'm not just saying that because you're sat here. I'd say it to anyone. There's certain singles by certain bands that just have a legacy. And I know in 50 years' time that will still be played and people will be like, that's one of the greatest choruses. I just want to sing along, have a drink, and forget the worries of the world,
Yeah. Well, it is a fairy tale that way.
Yeah.
It's not autobiographical. I went to a boys' high school,
Yeah.
There was no Noel.
No.
So,
don't shatter the dream.
I've always said that Jason Biggs dies at the end of the video because the thing falls on him.
Yeah.
But I don't get me wrong. I absolutely love that song. It's a foundational identity track for myself personally.
Yeah.
I feel like I succeeded in weaving together the 10-year-old version of me who was, scared of Satan worshipers and heroin addicts in his hometown, and back up to like what I was becoming as a songwriter when I was 25. So I'm very proud of it, and we still love to play it. It never gets old. I mean, it just doesn't. We're lucky that way, as you said, because our big song, for lack of a better term,
that's fair.
is actually our own.
Yeah.
It's not a cover.
No,
it's
which
not
is great. So you actually get some royalties.
Very lucky that way. Also, in the sense of like performing it, it just doesn't.
Well, the pride comes with it.
Doesn't get stale. Yeah.
Dude, I think our time's almost up, but what I do on this podcast, and I'm really intrigued by your answer, every guest that's been on the podcast gets the final question. You get to choose any piece of music by any band or anything from a film score or anything that plays after today's interview. So when it goes out there for the world to listen to, our interview's done, you get to choose a song that really means a lot to you. Not by Wheatus, but by anybody in the world. I'm putting you on the spot. I'm an arsehole, I get it. But
it's the theme song from the movie The Natural with Robert Redford.
Why that? Why not, I suppose.
Okay, well, it's two. There's another one then.
Oh, okay. No, I want the first one that comes to your heart.
Also, the theme song from The Last Dragon, a kung fu movie from the 80s. You know that one?
Man, my other podcast is a movies podcast that's gone nearly 10 years. Movies is my life, but I love coming to festivals.
Well, I'll come back and talk to you about The Last Dragon if you want.
We can do a 2-hour special on just old retro films. Dude, this is Mac and Me, the 80s film that tried to be E.T.
Yeah.
So my whole podcast is based on Mac and Me, but it's Mark and Me. So
in the case of The Last Dragon, if I could just divert, that's a knockoff of The Karate Kid. That's actually better than The Karate Kid, in my opinion.
The Crane Kicker and Karate Kid makes me want to just remember that moment forever. If I ever go to a fancy dress party, I want to go as a shower. So Daniel LaRusso is there.
I understand where you're coming from.
Yes.
But as a New Yorker, that was a West Coast movie, right?
That's fair.
The East Coast version of it is The Last Dragon.
Yep.
And The Last Dragon is a little bit more mystical, a little bit more supernatural, a little bit
Okay.
more New York vibes for me. So I just felt The Last Dragon a little bit harder than I felt.
So let's have that theme tune now that plays at the end of our interview, because that's now in my head and I want
Yeah.
it there.
You are the
Mate,
last
it's there.
dragon.
It's there.
You possess. Yeah.
That's amazing. You should cover that.
I would love to cover that song.
And then you come back on the podcast because you've just done Sapling podcast with Sean and Morgan, who I know those guys.
Yeah, I've been bouncing around podcasting all morning, man.
But what we'll do is we'll do a podcast away from a festival, and we'll sit down for 45 minutes, an hour, on Zoom or something when you're not as busy and you're not being pulled everywhere. And we'll do a dedicated film. We'll do a dedicated episode, and everyone will be like, "Oh, I can't wait to hear about the band," and we'll just talk film.
Just movies, no music.
And I've done it
or
before.
music in movies. But
Bowling
yeah.
for Soup came on, and we did a 45-minute episode on why Back to the Future 2 is terrible. I don't agree, but they've convinced me on that time.
I only sit down and watch all three
Yeah.
because the second movie you can't get this. You need the third one.
Yeah.
Right. So I understand where that comes from. But the piece as a whole is a masterpiece.
So will you come back on eventually and we'll talk film?
100%.
Thank you for your time today,
Yeah,
sir.
thank you.
You're a legend. Thank you so much. There's my first interview with Brendan from the awesome band Wheatus. What a great band. What a really cool, interesting guy to talk to. I had no idea what to expect when I sat down with him, and my God, I can't wait to get him back. I think we've kind of teased that we're going to talk about films next time, especially with his song choice being The Last Dragon, and genuinely I can't wait to get him back. So that's going to happen hopefully real soon. And a massive thanks for Brendan for coming on the podcast and just giving me your time, because that's one of my favourite moments from the Download Festival. Next up, this is a band that I've been trying to get on Mark and Me for over 5 years. This is a dream guest, and I'm so excited to say it. I'm joined by Wade McNeil from Alexisonfire, one of my favourite bands, genuinely a band that everyone should listen to, and Wade is an absolute legend. So let's get to it. Here's me and Wade talking all things Alexisonfire. Wade, welcome to the Mark and Me podcast.
Thanks, Mark.
It's a pleasure. What I love to do with all bands that come on the podcast, especially for the first time, we're going to go down nostalgia lane today. We're going to have a light trip down there. Slowly we're going to go down there. And what I want to know is, when you were a kid growing up, the first album you remember buying with your pocket money that made you want to be in a band or fall in love with music. And it might be embarrassing.
I mean, I don't know if this is the one that made me want to be in a band, but I'm pretty sure the first record I ever bought with my own money, so from cutting people's lawns
Yep.
in my neighborhood, was the Weird Al record.
Oh, wow.
Where it's like him naked on the cover, like the Nirvana one.
Yep.
So
That brings back a lot of memories. I remember that album
Yeah.
coming out and everyone's like, he's just trying to be Nirvana. I was like, it's such a fucked up idea to put himself naked on the front of a cover.
brilliant.
Brave.
Very brave.
That's one of your first ones you remember.
Yeah, it's the first record I bought, and then I also remember shortly after that, I bought the Body Count record because I had to go
Nice.
back because my dad was like, you know, go buy. I think he probably gave me $20.
Yep.
I'd go buy a CD, and I wanted the Body Count record because I'd started playing guitar, getting into heavier music. And this was before they recalled them, so like it would have still had Cop Killer on it.
Nice.
And I remember
That'd be worth a lot of money
I remember
now.
the guy. I remember
Wow.
the guy at the record store was like, "You can't buy this. Like, I'm not selling you this."
No.
And I was like, "My dad said I could get it."
I've got a note.
And then
Yeah.
he's like, "Go get your dad." And then I went and got my dad from the food court at the mall.
Wow.
And he came in. He's like, "Sell the kid the fucking record."
Yeah. And that's a fucking changer for you, innit? That's an amazing
That's
album.
it. That set me down this
Very
peculiar
weird road.
route.
Yes.
Weird Al Ice-T.
Yeah,
That's it.
it goes so well together.
Yeah. It's the Venn diagram. Wade McNeil in between those two things.
What about live music, dude? One of my first bands, Green Day, on their Dookie tour. Unbelievable. But I wondered,
Was it an embarrassing first band you got to see live, or was it something incredible? Someone came on today, and they were like AC/DC. I was like, wow, like, I don't know how you top that.
The first live show I saw was John Cougar Mellencamp. Went with my dad.
Yep.
And so young that I knew none of the music. I don't even really remember paying attention to the music, but I do remember that Toronto Blue Jays superstar Paul Molitor was there watching the show, and he signed my baseball hat.
That's incredible.
And I was thrilled.
Yeah.
I really liked the way he held his bat when I was playing baseball. At that time, I liked how stiff he was. I was trying to do in my mind, every time I stepped up to bat, I was Paul Molitor.
I love this.
So,
Have you still got it?
Definitely not.
And for yourself, obviously, with the band you've been in and the legacy, I want to say that word, and I fully think you deserve it. Like, the band you've been in, did you ever expect that you'd be sitting here today, like 20 years later, like with this incredible thing you've done with Gallows and Alexisonfire? You must be like pinching yourself at the moment.
You know, I try and be more present in what
Yeah.
I'm doing these days, but it's hard to step outside of yourself, you know? Like, I'm just...
It's what made you.
I really care about music. I feel really fortunate to play it, but I do get struck over the head with it sometimes, you know? And, like, I just did a DJ tour of Brazil and Mexico, and in Brazil, I went to some, like, pretty small places I didn't know existed before I talked to the promoter about doing the shows. And in these small Brazilian towns, like, there was a bunch of kids with Alexisonfire tattoos bringing our vinyl for me to sign it.
Yeah.
And, like, me being able to go and DJ, like, I mean, I think that speaks to it right there, is, like, people care enough about the records I've made that they're, like, incredibly supportive of me DJing.
Yeah.
And so for me to be able to travel like that and, like, play these smaller bars and meet our fans in that capacity is very touching.
Any good stories come from that? Like, did it suddenly involve you ended up in a studio?
Oh my God.
How's that for research?
Insane, man. So I'm walking around Sao Paulo the night of our show, and the promoter's taking me around, and she's like, we got to go over to this part, this alleyway. There's this jazz band that plays there that's, like, out of control. And we go, and I take a video of them playing, and it's this really, like, almost like fast, like the funky Herbie Hancock 70s stuff, the way his band sounded, or like really blasty cocaine 60s Miles Davis.
Yep.
And it's insane. Like, it's abrasive. The band is playing, a car breaks down next to them. They're playing in the street. Someone starts jumping a car off another car next to where this band is playing. It's chaos.
It sounds insane.
Sao Paulo's nuts.
Yeah.
So anyways, I take a video of this, of the car being jumped, of the saxophone player. And someone that follows me on Instagram sends the video to the drummer, like, knows who he is. He reaches out to me, and because I have a few days off, we end up going into the studio together in Sao Paulo. We go in and do a night session, and we recorded what is certainly the most insane thing I've ever been a part of. Myself, a saxophone player, a drummer, and a bass player, and we recorded like two, like 15-ish minute songs that are like totally improvised, that are just like blazingly fast, aggressive jazz stuff. So
Alexisonfire fans, get ready for
Jazz Wave.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know, I've got that like psych project Doom's Children.
Yep.
And which I really feel is like is the project should be called Wade Does Whatever the Fuck He Wants.
Yep.
So I think it'll be a Doom's Children release. It's got to get mixed, but I think I'm going to call it Melt Your Head. That's certainly what it sounds like.
Can you like can you describe it? If someone said like, I need a bio on it, what does it sound like? It just sounds insane.
It sounds like a guy playing every note that exists on the saxophone.
Yeah.
Constantly, very fast. a person playing guitar that has zero understanding of jazz. I can't tell
Get
you
ready.
the names of the chords I'm playing. I'm like entirely self-taught
Yeah.
as a guitar player. So like my playing on it is like, I don't know, like fuzzy kind of psych stuff, wah, like bass stuff. And then the drummer and the bass player are just like, I don't even know, man. I don't know. Other than like, I think the name "Melt Your Head."
Yeah.
Like what I want to call the EP is like, I think that describes it. Like, imagine listening to something and your head melting. That's what it sounds like.
How long have we got to wait? This year, hopefully.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And
coming here and DJing, do you feel pressure that you want to be a bit different and not just play the obvious songs that people are like there for? Because you look at the lineup and I think, how many of these DJs tonight are going to play Rollin' by Limp Bizkit? How many bands are going to play Paramore?
Here's what I'm doing. Like, I don't know. Like there's all these like emo nights that
Yeah.
people do, and they're like, here's System of a Down.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck that has to do with anything. You know, like, so that's not getting played.
No.
You know, I'm doing an emo night, which is me playing, you know, all the bands like that we came up with
Yeah.
and did Warped Tour with. So like the bands we toured with, like back in the day, like Taking Back Sunday, My Chemical Romance, Paramore, like people I had beers with on Warped Tour. So like, you know, like kind of like that, like pop punk and like emo of the mid 2000s
Yeah.
when we first started going, and the other DJs can play
The other stuff.
the other stuff.
What you should do halfway through your set is play an exclusive bit of your Melting Head music.
Just to
Just
to
be
clear
like,
the
what
tent.
the fuck? Like, what the fuck just happened? And be
This is
like,
wi- this is the
and
part-
then go straight
it's the
into
part
My
where I
Chemical
ruined the
Romance.
vibe.
Yeah, and then just stick on The Offspring, and everyone's like, what the fuck is the hell's going on here? That's what I want to see. But do you get to enjoy the festivals? I know with Slam Dunk in here, do you actually get to unwind, and when you're not doing press for 2 hours, do you get to go and check out some bands and see friends?
I hope I get a chance to see Pantera and Dying Fetus.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, even just showing up, I was like, oh, he's here today. There,
Yeah.
like, so there's a ton of homies
I
floating around.
really can't wait to see Pantera. We've been talking about it. We haven't had it in the UK for 20 years, so it's not like America's had their fair share lately. But I'm sitting here like, I really hope it's like as good as I want it to be. I'm like,
I hope it's as good as you want it to be, too.
yeah,
I hope it's great for us.
it's going to be fun.
It's going to be great.
What's happening with you apart from DJing? Are you currently in the studio, or apart from obviously
There is, well, I'm a jazz musician now.
Yeah.
Um,
I only do jazz.
There's in 2 weeks I go home and Alexisonfire throws a festival in our hometown.
Amazing.
It's called Born and Raised. We did it for the first time 2 years ago.
Yep.
We recorded that set and we are releasing it as a live record
Oh man.
in 2 weeks when we have Born and Raised this year.
Yep.
So that'll be coming out. It's a live show of like we played 2 days.
Yep.
So it's like something like 19 tunes, something like that. So that'll be coming out. And then
There's not enough live albums. I mean this. I used to love live albums. I remember buying like Nirvana and getting all those, and actually buying the official live albums, because obviously streaming's great, but it's a bit of a dying art. I haven't seen as many bands now putting that much effort into a live album. So to know I'm going to get this it's exciting, man. I love live music.
That one's out in like 2 weeks, and then
Lovely.
also we recorded a ton of the shows we did on our last touring for
Yeah.
Otherness, and also in the way we approach that touring, we play a different set list every night.
Yeah.
And we try and there's a lot of parts of the set that are improvisational
Yep.
and like take very different turns, and we try not to do the same thing.
Yeah.
So our bass player writes a set every day, and we're like, okay, that's it. And so as a result of having all that different live stuff, they're all vastly different. I think we're going to try and stagger those and like keep releasing a bunch, so we've got like a pretty large catalog of them recorded.
That'd be amazing. I mean, Pearl Jam, one of my favorite bands. I think every gig they've ever done now, you can
Yeah,
download.
it's
I'm like,
amazing,
that's
man,
so
yeah.
good. You're like, I was there. I'm going to go and get that one from Manchester 18 years ago, and it's like, that's pretty special.
For sure.
And what about new music? Are you sitting down with a pen and paper and writing stuff at the moment?
Yeah, so I think as we switch gears into the new year, I know like Alexis is going to be on the road next year, and then also like want to get back in the studio for
That's
sure.
going to be so good. Are you allowed at this point to tell me if you're coming to the UK, or you're not allowed to
We'll
say?
come to the UK for sure.
Of course.
Yeah.
I
We
think-
always do.
Yeah, you never miss us. But we miss you.
Never. We're always here.
Dude, what I do on this podcast is my final question for you today, and it's quite a nice one for musicians, but I ask it to everyone. To make the episode as original as I can, as this interview is all edited and ready for the world to listen to, you get to choose a song that plays after our interview. So you can have any song ever by any band, and you literally get to choose it. So who would you love to be played? This is all edited. Mark and Wade, sit down. What's the song that plays? And there
then
might
the
be
song,
millions.
The song just plays.
The song just plays after we say goodbye.
I think because I'm surrounded by so much heavy music all the time,
Yep.
I spend a ton of time at home listening to very ambient music.
Lovely.
One of my favorite ambient musicians is Harold Budd,
Okay.
and one of his earlier records is called Pavilion of Dreams. It's it might be my favorite record
Wow.
of all time. And I think it's a brilliant title for an album. I think
Yep.
it truly sounds like that. And now I did need to look this up because the first track on the album is called
Get ready.
Bismillahi Rahmani Rahim.
Oh, that one. Yeah. Well,
Please enjoy.
I can't say I'm a fan or I know of it, so this
You're
is going
gonna
to be
love
a
it.
deep dive.
You're going to love it.
I can't wait. Thank
Yeah.
you for coming on, my friend. Let's do more when you're back.
Absolutely.
So there's my interview with Wade from Alexisonfire, an amazing DJ, an amazing guitarist, an amazing guy. My God, I could have talked to him for hours. A guest I really hope we can welcome back on Mark and Me soon. A true dream guest for me. I really mean that. When I've always tried to get Alexisonfire, it hasn't worked out. The times have not quite worked, or they've been too busy on tour. So this was just a pinch me moment, and my God, I love him. To finish things off for this special of the Mark and Me podcast at Download Festival, I'm joined by a huge band, Sum 41. This interview was actually recorded backstage in the band's dressing room before they went on stage. It's their final UK festival appearance, which blows my mind. I've had Dave and Cone on before, and these two, for me, are just beautiful human beings. So down to earth, so kind. Dave also gave me at the festival his plectrum for his final festival appearance, which is awesome and such a great souvenir to have. The dressing room is amazing. I wanted to steal so much stuff, but I didn't. I got to see the set list, their dressing room. It was just a true awesome moment that I'll treasure forever. But the interview is so good, and I think it's time to get to it. So here's me and Dave and Cone talking all things Sum 41.
Welcome back to the Mark and Me podcast.
Oh, it's
Oh,
good
thanks
to be
for
here.
having us again.
Good to be here.
So good to see you, and I feel emotional. It's like a happy feeling because we're back in the same place and we get to talk about music, but at the same time, it is sad knowing that this will be your final UK festival.
Yes. Yeah.
How do you genuinely both feel when you're here and it's now finally come? Because you can anticipate this moment, you can build up to it, but now we're sat here and it is the day of Download, and you both must have this kind of happy, sad feeling.
I will be honest with you. I did not realize that until you just said it.
Oh,
And
I knew that.
Sadness
He
is,
thinks-
sadness
he
is
hasn't been told
definitely
yet.
setting in. Yeah.
I've been grumpy all day because of it.
Oh man, that's why you were so mean in the car. Oh,
Does
Does it feel real?
all these shows, like, this one is going to be the same, but all these shows are somewhat like exciting and we're happy, but we're emotional.
Yeah.
And it's like when you see people in the front row that you can tell are emotional. It gets you more emotional. So I don't know what today's going to be like, but yeah, it sucks.
Yeah.
This is the last UK festival. I mean, we played so many festivals here, Slam Dunk, Reading and Leeds, now Download for a second time or third time.
Yeah.
So
had the opportunity to play with Metallica,
How
System,
cool is that?
like
You know what I mean? Looking back at the legacy.
that day in itself, it was a day at Reading, and our buddies in Good Charlotte had played before us, and the crowd was very, very heavily swayed towards heavy metal.
Yeah.
And the reason we could tell that is because they were pelting our buddies with bottles
Oh man.
relentlessly, and we were just watching. We're just like, oh man, it's like, you just want to go out there and take one for the team, right?
Yep.
So they started up on us when we kicked in, and we stopped. I think it was like third song, and then we just launched into a part of Master of Puppets
Nice.
that we had done on MTV, and that like calmed the savage beast. It was a pretty crazy moment, but that's like probably one of my craziest memories from
That was
UK festivals.
2002, I think.
Yeah.
Or 3.
Wow, that's mad. I always forget, like, at the moment there's a big thing with the music industry that, like, Incubus have done 20 years since Morning View and stuff, and I'm like, oh man, I thought it was 10 years ago. Like, I can't get my head around these years, and I feel really old. But what does it kind of look like when you're going on stage today? Do you still? I wonder if you kind of still get those nerves, or does it just become part of you? Are you just both going on and kind of just switching it on the moment you pick up your guitar or your drums or your bass guitar? Are you just then switched on to the mode of we're here to now play?
Yeah, I think eventually you get to a point where it is really easy, and I think it comes with an appreciation for how lucky this dart hit a 1 in a trillion chance. So it's like being able to do this, and especially being able to say something like this is our last festival in the UK. It's crazy, but yeah, as soon as you step onto that stage, that guitar's strapped on you, all you're thinking about is like, what's next?
Yeah.
Next song, and then
I think nothing's really changed for us. Like, we take the show really seriously.
Yeah.
And we start like 2 hours before the show.
Yeah.
So like we kind of get into like that mode early, rather than just like, I see some bands, and I'm actually envious of some bands that just like hang out, drink beer, and wear the same clothes, and like don't even practice on their guitars. They walk on stage and they rip it up, and I'm just like, how do they do that? Because we always get into like a mode like at least like probably 2 hours before the show. Like we get ready in our minds.
I appreciate your honesty, and like some people I think will wear a mask and be like, yeah, we're cool, like we're fine with this. But what is your kind of ritual? Do you have like you all sit together and just don't talk and kind of have your own space, or do you just kind of, do each of you have your own little procedure just before, like you said, you get ready 2 hours before? Are you just playing your guitar over again and just like talking to friends on your phone, or trying to keep your mind off it?
Yeah, we do practice quite a bit, like on our practice guitars and basses. We try and keep our drummer Zumo away from us.
As far as you can in this backstage,
drumming for 2 hours. But yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of, and we talk about the set, we talk about transitions, we talk about just stuff. Yeah. Get ready, change. There's no real like traditions. It's just kind of, it's nothing really that exciting.
I more hang out for those 2 hours.
Yeah.
I used to be very, very regimented, but then I heard a crazy story by a triage officer, and it's very, very long, but it ended up with him not having a parachute open. It ended up with him having to hug somebody who did have a parachute open, and then the person whose chute opened ended up having to have an artery stapled together in the battlefield. So that made me realize, like, oh, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Just hand me the guitar. I'm gonna be fine.
I'm all right.
Yeah.
I'm in a good place. It could be worse.
Yeah, nobody's stapling my arteries together.
What's it feel like as well? I think it's been announced. If not, we'll edit this out. But you're coming back to the UK for like a final lap.
Eventually, yeah. It's in the works right now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's in the works, but we will.
Which is nice. So it's not like your final ever UK show. It's your final festival. But you're going to kind of give us one more lap of the circuit, and we get to come and see you in arenas and bigger venues. So it doesn't feel quite like the end yet. It's like
and we're still going to the end of January too. So for us, like it doesn't.
It's
feel
a
like
while
the
off,
end at
isn't
all.
it?
It is. Yeah.
Do you guys get to, so with this weekend, I know you've got your 2-hour prep and stuff that you do, but do you get to go off and enjoy bands and just switch off for a bit as well? Do you get to go and see other friends play? And
That's
For
my
sure.
favorite thing about
Yeah.
festival season.
Yeah.
Is, I even just walk around the festival, just out and enjoy, like, smelling all the fried foods.
Yeah.
And, like, just seeing all the T-shirts, stuff like that, and just seeing people enjoy themselves.
that's awesome.
It's such a cool vibe.
Yeah.
Kerry King was in our video in 2002,
Yeah.
and so we're gonna see him after this.
Yeah,
That's gonna
I'm
be cool.
pumped to see his solo project live. Haven't seen it live yet.
Yeah, I've had, only a few months ago, I had Dave Lombardo on the podcast, and I was just like, I got to see Mr. Bungle on Friday.
Yeah.
Dave Lombardo, to watch him, my God, like,
Unbelievable, right?
fucking unbelievable.
Oh.
And I don't know how he does it. He's like, I'm going to do Mr. Bungle, I've done Slayer, I can do what I want, and I'm just like, how does someone have so much talent for so many projects?
Yeah.
I know, right?
It's amazing, man. But Kerry King's on your list today then, so you get to see
100%.
that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kerry
Yeah.
Make sure there's no press coming in and interviewing you in the next 2 hours.
We'll see.
All press stop.
yeah.
Also, what I want to know is, and you don't have to be, you don't have to share this with me, but is there anything that you kind of see yourself doing in the future once this is all wrapped up? Do you feel like you might want to do some of your solo stuff, or maybe some music for a soundtrack for a film, or do something completely different? Or are you just going to shut the book and just take some really well-earned time off where you can just put your feet up and enjoy family and friends and normal life?
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious that we're going to take a rest after this. This is
Yeah.
going to be a long run, but I mean, we're all creative people.
Yeah.
So there's no way you can just stop that.
you can't switch it off,
Yeah,
can you?
absolutely not. No, we've
It's
been
part
doing
of
it
your
too
blood
long.
for so long.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
actually, this is part of the reason the band is ending, is
Yeah.
because Derek doesn't feel like he can shut off Sum 41 if we're still doing Sum 41.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing. And
Yeah, of
I think-
course.
I think it is going to be hard, like, once the band is done, to be like, let's just take 6 months off.
Yeah.
I think during that 6 months, we're all going to get itchy to do stuff again.
Yeah.
Just because we've always done stuff in music. So
And we're like 20 minutes from each other, so
Oh,
it's
lovely.
like, yeah.
So you can still write, you can still jam.
Yeah,
you can
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah,
do a
yeah.
side project, get some other mates from other bands. That's the thing at the moment, which is always good.
Oh,
Yeah,
that would
yeah.
be such a blast to have, to just do some work with people that we've always wanted to.
We've literally got 1 minute left, but what I do on this podcast with every guest that comes on, you might remember this from Slam Dunk, but each guest, even though we're at 350 plus episodes, gets to choose the song that's played at the end of the interview. So it can be any song by any band that you both love in the history of music. So I'm making it quite difficult putting you on the spot.
Yeah.
But after this is all edited, Sum 41, you both get a little choice of a snippet of music. What's the one that comes to your heart when I ask the question?
Who are you interviewing for Cohen's Cave this week?
Oh, today I got Jane from the Go-Go's on my show, but
Go-Go
but I
sound
kind of want to
cool.
give a shout out to Joy Valance and Bray.
Yeah,
They
dude.
just opened our U.S. tour. Kind of a
Amazing.
new.
Yeah.
Do you know them?
I don't, but I love the fact that now I will, and
Yeah.
then I'll
Yeah.
listen to them by editing this in, and I'll
There's-
fall in love with this new band.
There's a great song called Punk Tactics.
But they also got a new record
album
out.
out.
They have
Oh,
a
we'll
new
do Punk
record out.
Tactics.
yeah, this is a great plug.
If you can play two,
Okay, so
play
you get one choice.
Yeah,
each.
play Punk Tactics, but then also play Pack a Punch. It's got a collaboration verse with Danny Brown, one of my favorite MCs from Detroit. So
Wow.
And it's kind of like, kind of throwback 80s, 90s hip hop,
Yes.
kind of Beastie Boys, Run DMC, like that
I'm
kind of
sold
stuff.
already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really good.
Guys, thanks for coming on. I can't wait to watch your set, and I really appreciate it.
nice.
Awesome.
Thank
Nice.
you.
Thank you.
Good to see you again.
So that was my third and final interview for this 4th-part special for Download Festival. My God, to end it with Sum 41 is the perfect band. It was such a great experience. To invite me into the band's dressing room to record was so good, such an experience, and Dave and Cone are just absolute legends. And they did say, in person, I can go back on their final UK tour and get a longer interview with them. And my God, what a send-off that's going to be. One of the best performances of the weekend, one of the best sounds. The crowd was so busy, it was heaving, and everyone knew it was a special moment for their very final UK festival appearance. Wow. I want to now do a couple of thank yous, which I've said. I can't do all the thank yous in one episode because that would be an episode in itself, but it's really important I give a big shout out to Kirsten Sprinks from Cosa Nostra. Because of her, the Alexisonfire interview happened. Thank you so much for trusting in me with your artists. It really means the world to me, and I hope I've done you proud. And of course the legend, which is Hayley at the Good as Gold group, for giving me access to Sum 41. My God, this interview will be something that I keep and treasure forever. I'm so glad I get to share it with all you guys listening right now, because I know it's very special to capture an interview at their final ever festival performance in the UK. As always, guys, if you've enjoyed today's episode, please share this. It costs you guys nothing to do. It's literally the click of a button on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. All the links are on markandme.com, so I make it really easy. The podcast needs support via Patreon, and if you're new to that, it's basically like going to a restaurant and giving the waiter a tip, but you're giving the podcaster a tip. All you have to do is go on markandme.com. There's a link on there. For £2 minimum a month, which is not a lot of money, you get a guaranteed 6 episodes coming your way. Not only that, you get a welcome pack with a badge, stickers, monthly newsletter, and an exclusive episode which is called The Lost Tapes, which is just for you guys at home that support me via Patreon, and no one else gets to hear those. And I will make sure that more rewards come your way to say thank you for supporting me. Right, I'm off now because I've got the final episode to edit for you guys, which will be out tomorrow, and that's the 5th and final part, which will then be a total of 15 interviews that I recorded backstage at Download Festival. Before I go, I want to say a massive thanks to all of you for listening. Thanks to Liquid Death for keeping me hydrated. Thank you for all of your support, and I'll be back this time tomorrow with a brand new episode. So until then, look after yourself, take care, and I'll speak to you all very soon.
Say it again and get punched. Don't you know that I pack up punch? 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 Back to the source, walking on the sky. I was born with the force. Don't care about the money or the power of your horses. Fine with my Civic, don't care about the Porsches. Whoa, pop out the cup, we shoot at Rambo. Don't need your deal, I'm eating Nando's. No, I won't be blunt. JVP, do whatever we want. Drop to me nice or get KO. You a small fry, you look like Toad. I spit fire, I'm more like Bowser. I got you scared, don't piss your trousers. Hoodie up with the strings in a bow. Whip so low, keep the underglow. Speakers thump thumping, beats bump bumping. Talk to my fist if you wanna say something. Don't you know that I pack up punch? Don't you know that I pack up punch? Don't you know that I pack up punch? Don't you know that I pack up? Can I get a what? What? Get cut. Don't do it for the money, I do it for the butt. You cannot compete, you trying to keep up. Your name's not Olivia, you don't got the guts. Huh, that's what your mama said last night. Blowing up like a bad pipe. Born with so much sauce, I think I was a fucking Stromboli in my past life. I'm going in, I better set the door. Swinging the mic like clubs at Top Golf. You pale as fuck, your feet are stuck. You cannot move, you got no groove. What is you to do? But to accept your fate, I'ma dice you up and serve you on the plate. Go to Hell's Kitchen, whipping up the chicken. Eat you alive, that's the mission. And now, entering the ring, Danny. Jump up, meet the rap on my head. Have your face fucked up like a 2K skin. Feeling like an old Xbox lobby, I'm that nigga. So ain't no disrespect, my dogs will go get ya. Fuck what you had for lunch, you eat a punch. Wash it down with your own blood and you get a stump. After for dessert, make you a leaker. Bass in your face when I'm coming out the speaker. Don't you front, come around here and play me. Cause you'll get jumped, man, no ifs, ands, or maybe. Put you to sleep like rockabye, baby. So watch your mouth, cause you don't wanna get crazy. So what you want, you gon' get what you're asking. My crew will bruise and we'll come through smashing. Time for some action, time for some action. No half step, cause my dog's never lacking. Don't you know that I pack up punch? Don't you know that I pack